Alrighty, hey everyone, welcome to our first session of the 2023 Volunteer Engagement Webinar Series. We're excited that you all have had the time to come and participate with us. We have a really great topic going on today for marketing for your volunteer program. And I really like this topic in particular because even if you don't work with a volunteer program and you work in a bigger program overall, there's going to be a lot of really great tips and tricks that Keita is going to talk to us about today. I do want to remind the group that we are being recorded. So if you want to turn off your camera, feel free to do that now. I just did because I forgot before. As we talk about certain topics and you have examples or anything you want to discuss, we just ask that you don't use particular names of volunteers or names of groups that you partner with, just to kind of keep it, I don't want to say civil, but just keep it kind of on the down low a little bit, because this is being recorded and it's going to be posted publicly on our Tennessee Commission on Aging and Disability YouTube channel. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Keita Cole, and she's going to talk to us about marketing. So Keita, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Sydney. I'm assuming everybody can still see my screen, okay? Everybody's good to go?
Yep, good to go. You're a little bit low on your volume, so I don't know if you can scoot closer to your computer or not.
No, I'll just yell. Hang on.
That's better, actually, whatever you just did.
I think I just talked louder. Can you hear me now? I'm like a Verizon commercial.
Yes, you're good.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we are going to talk today about marketing your volunteer program. But to be able to better market your program, whether it be transportation, meals, community involvement, you need to have a better understanding of what marketing is. So we're going to break down marketing into small increments so we can better understand how to implement it into our daily work and programs. Feel free to ask questions as we go along. You can type them in the chat. The way that my computer is set up, I can't see the chat. So Sydney's watching it for me. So Sydney, if you need to interrupt me and say, hey, we got a question, that's fine. And I'll ask you every once in a while if we have any questions. So today, our meeting objectives we're going to go over is what is marketing. We're going to talk about marketing versus branding and what's the difference. We are going to talk about what is your target market and how to reach them. We're going to talk about a SWOT analysis. What is it and how to do one? And that does not mean SWOT and flies. It is an actual acronym for something. Most of you may have already done one before. We're going to talk about how to create a marketing plan and why do you need one? And then we're going to talk about some challenges that may come along with marketing as you're doing it and how to work through those challenges. So the first thing we're going to talk about is marketing. What is it and why do I need to care about it? Oh, wait, my computer froze. Oh. Okay, there we go. Marketing is about reaching the people you want to reach with a clear message. So it involves promoting your program and identifying what you do and the services you offer. So you don't have to go to school to do marketing. However, I did go to school with them and I have a marketing degree. But what you all do on a daily basis is marketing. Marketing encompasses everything from market research to community events, newspaper advertising, Facebook posts, flyers that you post around in your agencies, anything like that that you do, all of that is marketing. And everybody on this webinar is considered a marketer, whether you have the degree in it or not. You do it every day when you promote your programs and services. It may be called something else. You might call it outreach. You might call it events. You may call it a special event, but it is marketing, regardless of what you call it. So it's everything. You're out there every day marketing your program. So pat yourself on the back. You are a marketer. So now we're going to talk about some things that we all have in what we call our marketing toolbox that we use daily to market our programs. You may not have realized that some of these things were marketing, but they are, just in different forms. So as I already mentioned, any kind of special event you do, whether it be you have a special music guest come in, if you're a senior center, maybe you do something related to a holiday, anything special event like that, that's marketing. That's putting your message out there. That's advertising your program. Any kind of flyers or posters that you create. Again, It could be something little as, just an announcement, or it can be something big as in recruitment. Regardless of what it is, it's all considered marketing. Networking in your community, go into different other events, go into special meetings. If you have a newsletter, whether it be a paper newsletter or an electronic newsletter, again, it's all considered marketing. Partnerships in the community or service with other people, services that you provide. Public recognition and awards. If you get some award for your agency or your program, be sure to put that out there. That's marketing. That shows you're making a difference. It shows you're being recognized. Radio and TV spots. If you have the budget and you're able to do any of that, which most of us don't, but if by some chance you come across the grant and you can do something like that, that's what most people consider marketing, is just those radio and TV commercials. But all of this stuff is in our marketing toolbox. Social media in any form. There's so many different social media outlets out there. It's marketing. YouTube was one that was just brought up about the YouTube channel, and somebody had mentioned that they've gone back and watched the old ones. That's marketing. That was marketing this volunteer webinar. That's marketing the years it's been out there. It's showing those messages again. So that message is out there in the world for anybody to go back and look at. And then surveys. If you do surveys of your clients, making sure that they are getting what they need, that's all marketing too. Again, all of these items are already part of your marketing toolbox. Now we just need to make sure that we're using it the right way. And we need to know how the message we're presenting is what we want people to think about and when they hear our program's name. So we want to make sure we're putting the right message out there. So in order to get the right message out there, we have to understand the difference between marketing and branding. So Sydney, I'm going to let you tell me some answers. I'm going to give just a minute. What do you, who considers marketing and branding completely different things or the same thing? Just say same or different. You can put it in the chat box.
Different. Ooh, related is one that came through.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. A lot of difference coming in.
Okay, that's good. You're right. It is different. Marketing and branding are two of the most important aspects of communication to consider. And to make yourself stand out, you need a strong branding with a clever message. So marketing is what you do to actively promote your program or service. The marketing strategy details how to communicate with your audience. It's the promotion of your brand. So a marketing strategy may involve getting new volunteers or promoting something new that you're doing at your center or at your organization or an already existing service. That's all considered a marketing. Branding is the message that you put out there when you're marketing these programs. This is what your values are and what you represent or stand for. A strong brand image can help existing and new volunteers identify with your programs and identify how it's different from something else. It can also communicate the values and create an emotional reaction from your customers. So an example we're going to talk about Nike. When you hear the term Nike, what do you think? Feel free to put it in the chat box.
Swoosh. Or swoosh. Sorry, I might have said the wrong one. We have shoes, athletic, check, or the swoosh, fitness, sporting.
Right. So athletic, sport, team, shoes, clothing, all of that stuff. And when you hear the term just do it, how does that make you feel? Does that make you feel empowered? Does it make you feel like you're lacking in something? Like what do you feel when you hear just do it?
Empowered to do it. A lot of empowered. Get it done.
So Nike has created a brand that is inspirational, motivational, innovative in sports and fitness. The goal is to be recognized, and Nike has done that very well. Just do it allows people to feel that they can accomplish anything and overcome any obstacle. They can achieve their goals, and most of the time, goals are related to health and fitness. So they place the swoosh and the term "just do it" strategically in their market, so people recognize the brand. So they market the term "just do it" and the swoosh because that's their brand. So they do the commercials, they do the ads, they do the Facebook post. So when you see a swoosh or when you hear "just do it," you automatically think Nike. So that's their brand is inspirational, motivational, sports, fitness, and then they market that out to all of us by using a swoosh and a "just do it." So that's kind of to think about it in the terms, that's your difference in your marketing and your branding. Sorry, I didn't click my slides soon enough. So now that you kind of have a concept of branding, we're going to talk about what's in your branding toolbox. It's things that you consider in your branding toolbox, maybe your name, the name of your organization, the name of your program, the logo, the tagline, again, Nike, "just do it." What about the color scheme of your logo? Does it invoke, what kind of feelings does it invoke? And we're going to talk about that here in just a second. Images you convey through pictures. Again, if you're putting pictures out of people doing things with your organization, you want to make sure you're showing the right brand. What are your values? What are your goals? What's your strategy? Do you show trust? What are the impressions people have? What are the feelings that people have when they hear about your organization or your program? It's important for people to trust you before they agree to participate with you. So you need to make sure your brand speaks for you when you cannot speak for yourself. Again, with Nike, we've heard it so much. We see all the advertising that they do and all the marketing that they do. When we see a swoosh or we think Nike, regardless if it's even related to Nike, that's what you think. So it is speaking for itself, even if the company can't speak for them. Like if you think about a magazine ad, you don't hear somebody talking to you about how you can accomplish anything by buying these athletic shoes. You see a shoe, it's a really cool picture. You see a swoosh, you see the tagline, "just do it." And you know that's Nike telling me I can do anything if I buy these shoes. So again, it speaks for yourself when you can't, it speaks for you when you can't speak for yourself. So when it comes to branding, details matter. You need to think about everything, even down to the colors you choose. Like I said, with your color scheme and your logo, you want to create a mood and a feeling, an emotion, and colors can do that. So you want to feel something, hopefully positive, when people see your branding or your logo. It's more than just picking your favorite color. So colors make you evoke an emotion. So we're going to look at this color wheel. So each color represents a certain emotion and a feeling. And if you have a transportation program, you may want to use the colors blue and purple, because blue, if you look on the color wheel, it evokes stability and trust and loyalty. And purple is luxury and power and royalty. So you want people, if they're in your transportation program, they want to trust you and they want to feel luxurious. So maybe those are colors you consider. For a nutrition program, which is what I run, so you're going to hear me talk about food delivery and things a lot, you're going to look at your colors green and orange. Orange invokes enthusiasm, appetite, success, joy. We all like to eat, so that brings about joy. Green is about growth, freshness, so people automatically think of things that are fresh. Money, so it's gonna cost money to eat, but you can make money if you grow your own garden or whatever. You might even throw yellow in there because it's happiness or intellect or cheer. Sydney will tell me this every time. I spoke at a TFA conference, and the thing she took away from the conference was brown is sad. So, because I had mentioned if your building is brown, think about repainting it because it's sad. If you think about an emoji on our phones, the majority of them are yellow. Yellow is happiness, intellect, joy, energy, cheer. So the smiley faces are yellow. That's for a reason. So again, when you're thinking about your brand and when you're thinking about putting these images out there, even if you're thinking about doing a marketing flyer, think about these colors. Red is a passion and an excitement, but it's also could evoke fire and anger. So you may not want to put red out on a flyer. It might grab somebody's attention, but it also could evoke the wrong message. So just think about it when you look at the color wheel and you're thinking about what you're doing to see if it's something that you can change to make it happier or make it more exciting. Do we have any questions so far, Sydney?
No questions so far, but I'm rethinking the color scheme of the flyer for this series.
Well, there you go. I know, I'm like rethinking all my marketing stuff for the nutrition program too. So,
One question actually did come in. Sorry. What would
okay.
gray be?
Gray is probably more of a neutral. It's it doesn't really go one way or the other. Black is more sad, or black and brown are sad. It doesn't really evoke an emotion. So gray is just going to kind of be a version of that. So I would try to stick with a color, like a brighter color. I mean, gray's not a bad or a good thing. It just doesn't really evoke anything. It's kind of, people won't think about it as much. It won't stand out as much because it's neutral. Hopefully that helped. So now that we have an understanding between marketing and branding, you need to identify who your target market is, and why you're trying to reach them. Most likely, most of you on here are just thinking, I need more volunteers. That's it. I don't care about a target market. I just need more people to help out do what I need to do. But you need to think about that a little bit more than just, we need more volunteers. You need to break it down into categories. And those categories are your current group of volunteers that you already have. You have those, you want to retain those, you want to keep those. You also need to think about it as your future volunteers or participants. Who are you trying to reach? Why are you trying to reach them? What are you trying to reach them for? Elected officials. And I know some of you may be rolling your eyes and thinking, they're not going to do anything. They might not volunteer, but they have an impact when it comes to funding. So you want to get your message out there to those elected officials because they can control your funding, which can control what you do. So that's why you need to identify, are you recruiting for volunteers? Are you recruiting to show an impact? Are you trying to show what impact you had to maybe get more funding? So you really need to think about what you're doing instead of just putting a blanket statement out there. You want to make sure the group that you're targeting receives the right message. It can also be family members or people in the community. Each one of these categories presents an opportunity for growth and may receive your marketing message. So again, they'll see your brand and then whatever message you're putting out there. All of these also have potential volunteers. If not, they can be your brand ambassadors. So you think of your current volunteers, they're your brand ambassadors. They already volunteer for your program. They're going to be that walking marketing piece out there that's going to talk about how great your program is. And you want them to be proud to represent you and your brand. So you want to make sure you've given them the right tools to do what they need to do. So if you take nothing away from today, take this: the key to marketing. It is repeat, repeat, repeat. And I'll say it again: repeat, repeat, repeat. Most people do not hear your message the first time, and likely not the second time. That is why you have to do more than one thing when you're looking for volunteers. It can't be a one and done situation. How many times have you spoke at an event or sent out a flyer or put a social media post up, and inevitably somebody says, "Oh, I didn't know y'all did that," or "I didn't know, if I'd have known you were looking for volunteers, I would have hit you up." How many times does that happen? Pretty much every time. And it is so frustrating. It happens to me. It happens to me in my photography business. It happens to me at work. It happened to me when I used to recruit volunteers for a transportation organization. It happens all the time. And you're going to beat your head against the wall because you're like, I'm out here, I'm telling you what I'm doing. But it may depend on how many times the people have heard your message. You may be delivering that message to every group that you come across. So you feel like you've said it 1,000 times, but each group is made up of different people. So those people have to hear your message more than once, and it has to be an effective way of communication. So repetition is key. Effective frequency. In today's era of information overload, it takes many times before somebody hears what you're trying to say. And it can be anywhere from 6 to 20 times before your message leaves an impression on someone to make a move. How many times do you see an ad, the first time you see the ad on TV, and you think, oh, I'm going to jump out and buy that right now? Most of us will think, okay, that's a good product. I should look into that. But it's likely 3, 4, 5, 6 times that you see that commercial or you see that product before you pull the trigger and buy that product. This is why you must continuously promote what you do and your need for volunteers. Marketing is not a one-time solution. You can't put one flyer out there and say, I need volunteers. Then when you don't get volunteers, you're like, well, that was pointless. I didn't get anything. You've got to do it multiple times in multiple ways. Okay. So before we start thinking about how we're going to reach the people and how to do it many, many times over, we need to make sure that we're doing it effectively. So we're going to take a step back and do what's called a SWOT analysis of your program. It's not going to take long. It's not hard. It's easy to do, but it's making sure you're putting your right message out there. So it's recommended to do this when there is a change in leadership, or maybe at the beginning of a new year. We're in January, perfect time to do a SWOT analysis of your organization. Or if you have a new goal that's come up or a new strategy that you want, if you're shifting focus, if you redo your brand, if you do a rebranding, maybe you want to do a SWOT analysis with your new branding. So SWOT stands for strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. It is the process where you can identify both internal and external factors of your organization that are both a benefit and a detriment. So if you look at the chart on the screen, you'll see that strengths are an internal factor that's helpful. So it's what you do well. Weaknesses are also an internal factor that can be harmful. What has not worked? Where could you find room for improvement? Then you look down at opportunities. That's an external. What opportunities are out there where you can tap into? What could be helpful? Where could you grow more? And you may have some things that fall in both categories. You may have a weakness that's your volunteer recruiting, and your opportunity is volunteer recruiting. I mean, that's okay, because that's where you're weak and that's an opportunity for you to improve. And then you have your threats, which that's an external function and it's harmful. So again, what is going to stop you from doing it? Is it money? Is it time? What are we looking at here? So you just need to step back and take a look. Again, your organization, we're in January. This might be a good time to do this. And when Sydney sends out, I'm going to give her my PowerPoint, and then I've also got a blank SWOT analysis that I'm going to ask her to send out as well. So you'll have that and you can make copies of it so you can do it 1,000 times over if you want to. All right, so we're going to look at a SWOT analysis and we're going to see what we can do. So what might your strengths be? You could have your support in the community. It could be your current list of volunteers. It could be the difference you make in a community. If you serve food, you're making a difference to those people you serve food to. If you do transportation, you're making a difference for those. If you run a senior center, you get people gathered up and you make them engage with each other. You keep them happy because they're social and they're active. Those can all be strengths. Weaknesses, maybe there's unreliability. Maybe if you have a couple of volunteers that are not always reliable, that's a weakness. Maybe if you have a lot of turnover, whether it be paid staff or volunteers, people are going to see that as it's a different person all the time. They're unfocused, something you need to improve on. Then you look at your opportunities. Where's your opportunities? How do we reach a new area? Maybe there's a new community that just, a new subdivision or something that just opened up and you want to reach that community. Maybe there's a part of your county that is underserved and you've not been able to reach somebody in that community and you can tap into some resources there. Look at what you've already done. How have things worked before? And then your threats. Most of the time, these are going to be things like money. I don't have money to do marketing. Time, I don't have time. A lot of us are one-man shows. So it's hard to find the time to get this done. This is why you need to bring in some of those volunteers to help. And then your responsibilities. I have too many responsibilities. I can't do something else. So again, this can be a group effort. It can be with you. It can be with your supervisors. You could do it with your volunteers. You can ask them, hey, can you identify what our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are? Maybe they see something you don't. Again, if you get them involved, especially the ones that you want to basically quote unquote clone, or have multiples of, they feel loyalty. They feel indebted to you. They feel like, hey, she's listening to me. She's making a decision based on my opinion. I'm going to stick with this because she really cares what I think. So that can also be a strength if you show your care for your volunteers and how they work and how they function. Does anybody have questions on the SWOT analysis? This is something I did in college so many years ago, and I did so many of them.
So there haven't been any questions yet about the SWOT analysis, but I'll give everybody a little bit of time to type those in. But we did have some comments on a couple other things that you were talking about.
Okay.
Especially when you talked about like elected officials. Someone has their county executive that comes and serves lunch at their facility when their schedule allows.
That's amazing. And that you getting that county official involved, if he'll let you, and we'll talk about permission later, get a picture of him doing that, put that in the newspaper if you can. A lot of times those elected officials, especially if it's an election year and they're running for re-election, they're going to love things like that. They're going to show, it's going to show that people are involved, but it's also going to show your community, hey, this group has the buy-in of the officials. They have the buy-in of this community. We're going to continue to support them. It may not be by volunteering. It may be monetarily. Maybe they'll donate money or something. You never know. And, sometimes we're just desperate and we'll take anything. But you don't want to show that sign of being desperate out there. But ask that county official, be like, hey, can I take a picture of you serving a meal and, put it on our Facebook page or whatever. That's amazing if you can get those elected officials to buy in, because then when you're knocking on his door asking for money, he's going to see exactly why you need it. He knows.
We have someone who is a brand ambassador for several different things, and they're awesome partnerships. So you don't have to be paid to be a brand ambassador.
Right.
I think this is when you were talking about repeat, repeat, repeat. So a lot of people can really relate to that. We're 13 years old and some folks don't know about us. I remember always being told we're the best kept secret in state government or in the state or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
so that's
after,
why, we were just talking about that earlier, Sydney. We were just like, well, somebody said, oh, well, I didn't know about that. And you're thinking, how many times have I told you this? And that's what it is. It takes a lot of time for people to pull the trigger and make a move.
Yep. And another person speaks over and over again for over a year and a half on the radio, and they're just now getting feedback. So even though you repeat so many times, it can take time for that to develop into something.
Yeah. When I was in school, and again, I graduated with my marketing degree 22 years ago. So that makes me feel terrible. But that they told us you have to touch people at least 6 to 7 times before they're going to do anything. Now with the social media and TV and radio and podcasts and streaming and all of this stuff, it's more like 6 to 20 times that you're going to have to put that message out there. That's why, and we're going to get on into this about making a marketing plan. That's why this plan is going to come in handy, because you can plan things out and you can be like, all right, I can start talking about it now because this is when I need them. So I know I can get the message out this much ahead of time. So we'll get into the marketing plan here shortly. We good,
Yeah.
Sid?
Just a couple more things, like some people use district attorneys, judges, just kind of thinking along those lines. If you're trying to break into like schools or something, look at principals and teachers, and maybe they can get their students involved or the students' parents involved. And then we had an algorithms comment after you talked about podcasts and things. But other than that, we're good.
Perfect. Yeah. The algorithms on social media. And if you go, like, if you talk about, I'm going to go purchase this new pair of shoes, my phone's sitting right here beside me. If I say I'm going to go get me a pair of On Clouds, I guarantee you this afternoon, I'm going to have 5 advertisements for On Clouds. That's strategic. They do that strategically. Is it annoying? Yes. Does it cost money that none of us have? Absolutely. But those bigger organizations can do things like that. Because that's how they get their message out too. Again, you have to think what works for you, and not everything is going to work for everybody. But you've got to figure out what's going to work for you so you can be the most effective with your time and your money. All right. So now we've talked about our SWOT analysis. We've done our SWOT analysis. We know who our target market is. All right, let's go out and recruit. Not yet. We need to put together a marketing plan. So you got to use your SWOT effectiveness. Know where you have room for improvement. You know your goals and your mission. Again, your brand. Now you need to have a plan on how to accomplish those goals. But first you need to, again, make sure you're putting that right message out there. We need to look at perspective. If you are taking a photo and you're putting a photo out there of your organization, look at your perspective. Look at this picture on the screen. Because of the angle it was taken at, it looks like this child has giant feet. So you want to make sure you're showing your volunteer doing something and not just sitting. You don't want to put a picture of 3 volunteers sitting with their arms crossed and be like, come join our team, we're fun. Because that's clearly not the message that's being put out there. Make it exciting. Make people want to join in with your organization. Move around. If you're taking a picture and there's a big full garbage can behind somebody, move the garbage can, or take it at a different angle. So again, make sure you look at everything. All of this comes into your brand, because if you put out there that we're trashy and there's a full trash can and we don't clean up after ourselves, that's what people are going to think about. As much as you put positive stuff out there, somebody's always going to pull up with the negative. So be sure you're taking all of this into consideration. Even your lighting, it can be an opportunity or a threat. Is your location too dark? Is it hard to find where the front door is? Are there safety issues with your location? Is it something simple as adding a handrail or adding extra lights? Maybe putting a sign that says main entrance, something like that. If things are looking dark and dingy, people are going to associate that with your program and not want to get involved. And again, like I was talking about with the county official, always, always, always get permission for people if you're going to use their image in anything, whether it be social media, on a flyer, anything. Most people won't care. There are simple photo releases that you can Google online, and I'll try to find one and get Sydney to send it out as well, that you can adapt for your organization. But they want to know why they're being photographed, and you want to make sure that you get their permission, because you don't want it to come back later on down the road and bite you in the butt. So you might know what your SWOT is, but you need to make sure you're effective with it. Okay, so now we've gotten all this done, we got to do our marketing plan. And it evolves a little bit, but again, it's something that can be done fairly quickly and fairly easily. This is going to be your roadmap to setting your goals and putting your ideas into motion, how you're going to get from point A to point B. It's recommended that you do both an annual marketing plan and a monthly plan. Again, like I said earlier, you kind of have an idea of what's coming up. Your annual is going to be your overall goal for the year, how you're going to accomplish those. Is it increase your volunteers by 10%? Is it reach 20 more people? Is it get out into a new community? Whatever that might be, that's your overall goal for the year. And then your monthly is going to be, how can you do that little by little to reach that overall goal? So you're not in October trying to, oh, I've got to get all these volunteers because I said I was going to do it. So what specific goal do you want to focus on each month to make your annual goal come to fruition? There is no wrong or right way to do a marketing plan. Maybe it's just a list of goals and when you want to accomplish them. Maybe it's a focus on a certain time of year. Whatever it is, write it down. Hold yourself accountable and hold your organization accountable. Don't say, oh, I'll just keep it in my head. Write it down. Again, I'm going to have Sydney send out a template for a marketing plan, so you all will be able to take it and adapt it to how you need to. A good place to start is by self-assessing your current efforts. What are you doing now? What's working? Is it working? Does it need improvement? What do your marketing supplies look like? Are they all similar? Are you putting the same message out there? Do they fall along with your brand? What message are you putting out there for everybody to see? Understand where you're going and in order to do better. So again, do you have 4 different colors of a brochure? It's all the same brochure, but they're all 4 different colors. That's a mixed message. You want to try to keep everything consistent. It's not saying that you have to be boring. You can always change things up, but you want to keep the same colors. If your color scheme, I know here at TCAD we do a lot of red, white, and blue because we're with the state. But we can do different things, but everything has those same colors. So it's still all associated. So we try to keep it all somewhat uniform, but we can do different things. So again, it's not saying everything has to be bland and static, but you can keep it within the same family so it's recognizable as part of your organization. So marketing plan, demographics and trends. When you're starting to look at your plan, know the trends in your community. And you're all probably thinking, trends? What does that mean? I'm not a trendsetter. I'm just trying to get more people in my organization. Look at your town. Look at your population. What trends are happening in your population? How does this impact your overall goal? If your program targets older adults, what's the percentage of older adults in your community? If you're trying to recruit a younger adult audience to volunteer, what is the population size of those younger adults? Are there colleges or high schools you can pull from? You need to know what's happening in your community so you know where to look. One example, maybe there's a trend of a Latino population increase in your community. So one of your goals on your marketing plan may be to recruit a volunteer that speaks Spanish so they can work in that community and outreach to that community. It's hard to reach them if you can't communicate with them. So do you know where the largest number of Hispanics live in your community? How do you know where to target them? How do you know how to find them? Are your materials available in both Spanish and English so you can reach that target market? Whatever it is, just know what your trends are, know your age breakdowns, know your population, what's your projected growth. If there's significant population segments, maybe you have a large segment of Asian people in your community or the Asian population in your community. Where do most of your older adults live? Do they live on the north side of town? Do they live on the south side of town? Like, where do you need to put your message out there to reach the most people? It's all things to think about when you're looking at your marketing plan. And most of you are probably like, oh my Lord, I can't do this, but you can, I promise. So you're thinking, where do I find all this information? This is so overwhelming. How many of you just went into a mini panic attack thinking, I don't even know where this is in my area. I'm never going to figure this out. Don't. Take a breath. It's possible to get this information and it's minimal effort. People in your towns have this information. Go to the courthouse. Check with your town clerk. What about your property assessor? Chamber of Commerce. If you have a planning department, the community I grew up in does not have a planning department. It's too small. The voting office, the voter polls and records. Go to your veterans office if you have a veterans office. Maybe that's a demographic you want to try to target. How many veterans are in your community? So you're not asking for their personal information. You're just trying to look for trends in the community. You need to know where the greatest number of people live that are in this age group, or where the greatest number of people live that are in this ethnicity group, whatever that may be. These things are public record. Again, you may not get their personal information, which you don't want, but just let people know, I don't need their personal information. I just need this, or I just need, some demographics and some trends. Also, your lovely friends at here at TCAD, we have a 2022 State of Aging profile that we put out every year. The most recent one was updated, and it has some information. It's not going to have all of it, but it is a great resource. It's broken down by county, and it provides some really good information. You can access it on our website, or I'll also ask Sydney to send the link out. You can pull your county up specifically. If you're located in a specific part of the state, you can compare your county to the other counties in West Tennessee or whatever. But it's really good information. It breaks it down really easily, like grandparents raising grandchildren, the aging population. Again, we're aging, so it's going to focus more on that. So if you're trying to target younger adults, this might not help you as much. But the Tennessee Department of Health also does a county profile with different diseases. What are the the highest diseases in the county? So if you're looking on more certain disease specific information, you can visit their website and find their stuff. And if I can find the link to that one, I will also provide that to Sydney. I believe I have it, but I just have to double check. All right, are we overwhelmed yet? No, we're still good. Okay.
We are. We're awesome.
Other marketing plan goals that you might want to think about. What are your organizational goals? What do you want to accomplish this year? Is it one you want to increase your transportation? Is you want to do more outreach? What is that? What are your marketing goals? Do you want to build more awareness? Do you want to recruit a specific number of volunteers? Do you want to reach a new demographic? What's your call to action? What do you want your target audience to do? Do you need them to drive? Do you need them to assist with screenings? Do you need them to pack a meal? Do you need them to deliver a meal? Be specific, because you don't just want to say, we need volunteers. People want to commit to a specific thing. They want to know what they're getting into. And then your other part is, what's your timeline? Be sure that you list a specific time. People want to know what they're committing to. If you say deliver meals 3 days a week, that's easier to commit to than we just need you to deliver meals. If they know a time frame, it's easier to plan around and more appealing. They will be more likely to commit and stay involved if they know, okay, I'm only doing this for 2 hours, 3 days a week. If you say ongoing, they may be like, no, that's too much of a commitment. I can't do that. So be sure to give a specific time frame. You can always ask people to stay longer. You can always ask them if they're a great fit to stick with you or extend their time. It's easier to try to get people to commit to a little bit more time once you get them in the door than to throw it all at them at once. So be specific with your goals. All right. How are we going to deliver this message now that we have all of our target market and stuff figured out? So there's just a few different ways that you can get your message out. Just remember, it's going to take more than once. What about your media, your social media, the local media? Reach out to the local news station. Ask them to do a story on your program. Typically, that won't cost you money, especially if they're trying to fill a spot. See if they do a community calendar. You can post on there. Figure out ways to do this that's free to get your message out there. I know with the transportation program I used to run in West Tennessee, I just had a really great relationship with our local news station. And if they had a story to fall through or they had time to fill, they would call me up and be like, hey, Keita, can we come by and do a story on your program so you can get some more volunteers? I'm like, yeah, come on. We had t-shirts for the organization. I kept one in my office. So if I needed to change really quick, I could. At least I was representing the brand on TV. But those were free. It never cost us anything. It was 10, 15 minutes. They put it on the evening news. They put it on social media. They shared it multiple times. So, it was free and it was a way to get the message out there. Build those relationships with that local media, radio station. Somebody said that they've been on the radio station for a year and they're just now getting some feedback from it. Not everybody's in their car at the same time. The people you're trying to target may not hear it the first time. They may hear it on a replay. Or it's a different day and they're going to a doctor's appointment and they're not sitting at work, so they heard it that day. Again, build those relationships so you can call up that radio station and be like, hey, can I swing by and do a spot really quick? Most of the time they'll let you do that for free. So that's just a way to get your message out there and not cost a lot of money. Do flyers. You can do newsletter, you can do paper format, you can do online. You can use it to give health tips and tricks. And then you can throw in there at the end that you need volunteers. Same thing with your flyer. Again, use a creative way to say volunteer and be sure to include specific time frame. Maybe you don't call them a volunteer. Maybe if they're delivering meals, you call them a food angel. Maybe if they're driving people around, they're a transportation expert. Be creative to give volunteers a purpose. Let them know that they're doing something impactful. And share it in your community. Ask your volunteers to share it with their local churches, in their circles. If they do Bible studies, ask them to share the information there. Your Chamber of Commerces typically do an email blast every month. Ask them to put something in their email blast. Some Chamber of Commerces are easier to work with than others. But again, a lot of times they'll do that for the community and it'll be free because it benefits so many people out there. All right, what's next? You've done all this prepping, you've done your SWOT analysis, you've made your marketing plan, you've created all your things. Now what do? You have to measure your success. If you don't measure the impact you're making, you might as well not even be doing it because you don't know what's going to work. The best way to keep up with how people heard about you and your organization is to ask them. You can ask them verbally, you can do satisfaction surveys, you can ask when they call. If you notice a big push or a lot of inquiries after a big volunteer push, ask them how they heard about you. Was it on the radio? Was it on the chamber thing? Did they hear about it in their church bulletin? Figure out what's working and where you're reaching those people, and then adjust your plan. So for the next month, you make sure you hit those areas that you might not have hit the first go around. And one of my favorite things about marketing is that it's never finished. You are always going to be doing it. I love it. I love to be creative. I love to think outside the box. And there's always so much more to learn. Your communities are not stagnant, they're ever changing. You're always going to have different needs. So there's always room for improvement and always things to learn. Stick with me. We're getting close, I promise. Challenges. Is marketing all glitz and glamour? No. There are challenges, and we're going to discuss some of those. All right. Come on, computer. Technology challenges is one of them. There is a stereotype that marketing is icky. No one wants to be icky Vicky. If your name's Vicky, I apologize. But you never want to hear, I don't want to volunteer for them, because once you're in, you can't get out. It's like Hotel California. Once you check in, you never check out. They may tell you it's only a few days a week, but then they keep you and they keep asking you and hounding you to do more and more. You don't want to be a used car salesman. That is why all of this previous work that you've done and that you're doing with your plans and your analysts and your SWOT analysis is going to benefit you in the end, because you don't become the icky Vicky. You know exactly what you need, you know how many you need, and you know how to reach those people. So you can just put your message out there and let the work happen for itself. Think of marketing as a tool that you use every day, just like you might pick up a hammer or a screwdriver. You're marketing a good cause, and it's a good thing. You're trying to be respectful and efficient, but reach as many people as possible. The most important thing you can do is to be true to yourself. Strategies are different for everybody, and what works for one may not work for another. But sometimes you need to hear what other people are doing to spike your creativity. Another thing to keep in mind, be sure to meet your audience where they are, both physically and mentally. Keep your message simple and easy to understand. Not everybody has the same education level. I think the typical is you don't want to market, your language wants to stay around a 5th grade reading level, because you don't know what everybody's reading levels are. You don't want people to feel less than because they don't understand what you're trying to put out there. So be sure to meet your audience where they are. Again, you want to make sure you can provide as much information as you can. Things to keep in mind when you're working on your marketing. Promote a positive view. We all have room for improvement, but you don't want to start with what's wrong. You want to show what's right. And make sure that your current and future volunteers don't hear the negatives. Keep it positive and happy. Again, be careful what you say and who's around when you say it, because if you're venting and you're overheard by people that are in the community or people that are in your organization or other volunteers, you're going to become that icky Vicky. And they're going to be like, well, she just sits around and talks about everybody. I'm not working for her. I'm not helping her. Train your volunteers and staff to be sensitive to certain topics and subjects like ageism, inclusion, diversity, etc. The world's changing, and we don't want to discriminate against anybody based on their personal beliefs, their religion, their color, their sexual preference, whatever it is. Make sure that you're being inclusive. You may need to update some of your applications or different things to be sure you're including everybody. You don't want to leave anybody out. You'd never want people to feel, again, less than. Train your current volunteers and your current staff. They're all marketing. When they pick up the phone and answer the phone, they are marketing your organization. They need to be happy. They need to be positive. You don't want to call a place and be like, what do you want? You want to hear somebody say, thank you for calling Kita's House of Cards. How can I help you? I need a house of cards now because that sounded really cool. Um, put on your image lenses and look at your program with fresh eyes and an outside view. What do you want people to think and say about your program? Use those images or words as a jumping off point. Think back to the color wheel. What feeling and emotion do you want to put out there? And it could just be you take a sheet of paper and you start writing stuff down. I want people to be happy. I want people to be friendly. I want people to feel loved, whatever that is. Use those as starting off points. Be visible. If people don't know who you are, they're never going to want to volunteer. Get out in your community. Go to community events. Go to meetings. Go to commission meetings. Introduce yourself to elected officials and important people in your community. Be out there. It might not directly impact your organization, but go. Wear your name tag. Show where you're from. You want people to know that you are supporting your community, so your community will support you. Offer to host an event if you have the space to do it, or a local meeting. All of this is marketing. You have to be out in front of people for them to recognize your brand and your images. This is nothing new. What we've all talked about over this last, hour, 52 minutes, it's nothing new. You've all heard it. I'm just putting it in a different way for you to understand it. You have to hear it more than once for it to sink in. Remember what we said. Be sure to keep your message simple and easy to understand. Think outside the box when working on your plan. Involve your current volunteers and your staff. Send out thank you cards and birthday cards to people. If you have an elected official show up and do meals once a week, send them a thank you card. Thank you for coming and doing this. People always want to hear that they're appreciated. And that lets people know that they're more than just a number, that you actually care and you want them to stay involved. Use special events and dates to bring more interest. Maybe it's Fall Prevention Month or Grandparents' Day or National Ice Cream Day. Again, be creative. If it's National Ice Cream Day, maybe you get some organization to donate ice cream and you can have, ice cream cone for all the school kids. So their grandparents or parents will bring them by to get free ice cream. That gives you the opportunity to talk to them and to show them what your organization is about. You can get online and search special events or special days or holidays or whatever throughout the year. Be creative and trust yourself. Think like a marketer because you are. Train everybody that works for you and your organization to think like a marketer. They represent your brand. Be sure to welcome any newcomers, especially if you get some new volunteers or new participants. Make a big deal about it. Take a picture of them, post it on social media. Ask permission first. If you do a newsletter, spotlight them. Hey, we got so-and-so new this month or whatever. Again, people want to feel appreciated. Again, ask for permission and then thank everybody. I'm talking faster than I'm clicking my slides. Final thoughts. Collaborate with others in the community, whether that be town meetings, local clubs, whatever. Present a consistent and uplifting message. Be positive and encouraging. Nobody wants to be the negative Nancy in the room. Nobody wants a negative Nancy. So again, if you take nothing away from today, the key to marketing is repeat. You don't want to be an icky Vicky and you don't want to be a negative Nancy. So that's what you can walk away with today. Does anybody have questions? I'm done.
We did have a question come in. I believe this is someone who's also in West Tennessee when you were talking about the My Ride and your TV station. Do you remember what TV station that was?
It was WBBJ.
WBBJ. And then thank you to Jared. He put the link to the TCAD report. That big shout out to Chelsea, who's on the call, who is amazing in putting that together. We get that request a lot, and we kind of didn't do it for a year or two. So Chelsea's here, and she's keeping us accountable and doing an amazing job.
Yes, thank you, Chelsea, for doing that. And thank you, Jared, for putting that link in there.
So feel free to go ahead and put some questions in the chat. And Kita, thank you so much for being on with us. I wanted to do a couple quick announcements before we wrap up, and then we'll go back to Kita for questions and we can have people unmute themselves and whatnot. So I've talked about this before, so for some of our newcomers, they may not know about this, but we do a CVA hall or study group for anyone who wants to become CVA certified. CVA stands for Certified Volunteer Administrator. It is the only volunteer manager, coordinator, whatever you call yourself, credential that's available. So we've talked about this many times. There's no degree in volunteer management or volunteer engagement. HR is pretty close, like marketing is extremely close. But the CVA is really the only recognized credential for our field. So if anyone's interested in joining our CVA study group, for those of us who are already in on the group, I have your information and I'll be sending some information out about that. I'm hoping to start the study group the first full week of February. And the applications, I believe, for the April session is due in March, so that's coming up. I'll get everybody specific dates, and I'll include that in the follow-up email. Also, the Points of Light Conference, which for those of you who don't know what Points of Light is, it is a worldwide volunteer engagement organization, and they host the largest volunteer conference in the world, to where people from all over come. I've met people from Australia and Ireland and the UK, and it's actually really fun just to talk to them because I love their accents. But that conference is June 14th to the 16th in Chicago, Illinois. So last year it was in Disney, so that was hard for a lot of us to attend, but Chicago may be a little bit closer. I believe they'll also have a virtual option for anyone who wants to attend that virtually and not in person. It looks like their registration is going to be opening up in March, and it's about $575. So it is not a cheap conference to attend. I've attended a couple times, and it's amazing. Fingers crossed that I'll be able to go. And my last announcement is specifically for our Aging Program network. So every year we do the Volunteer Impact Report. And next week I'll be sending out some information on a data request, so the number of volunteers, volunteer hours, things of that nature. So be on the lookout for that coming from me next week. So Kita, you're getting a lot of praise in the chat box, and I'll be sure to copy and paste that, or maybe you can see it now that you stopped sharing your screen.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And I love doing this. Marketing is where my brain works the best. So.
And like Kita mentioned, she's going to send me all sorts of resources. So I'm going to send all of that to everyone who registered. So if you're on, I already have your email, so we're good to go there. And I should have that email out before lunch tomorrow is my goal. And I'll also have the video recording up. So if anyone wasn't able to attend or maybe had to leave a little bit early, they'll be able to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and again, thank you all so much for being on with us today. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And if anyone wants to take themselves off mute and ask Kita any questions, we'll hang out for a little bit. And we just appreciate everyone joining today. Thanks so much.